Welcome back to the channel. Hold up. Eala just stunned Elena-Gabriela Ruse at the Cincinnati WTA 1000. And the $7.4 million tournament exploded as Filipino fans transformed the Lindner Family Tennis Center into a wall of deafening noise. The 21-year-old Filipina, seeded 17th in her first ever Cincinnati main draw, has done it again. Nobody saw this coming. A straight sets destruction of seasoned WTA veteran Elena-Gabriela Ruse. A crowd that simply would not stop screaming. And a Filipino superstar showing that the Eala effect isn't merely real, it's becoming unstoppable. But listen to this. Eala's Cincinnati story didn't begin on the court. It started across the streets of Mason, Ohio, where thousands of Filipino supporters turned the Lindner Family Tennis Center into the newest Little Manila stronghold. And man, they came ready. Eala entered Ohio after a brutal North American swing that saw her capture her first WTA title in Washington, stretch her winning streak to 7 matches, and reach the Toronto round of 16 before losing to Belinda Bencic. That short reset, a haircut, time with friends, and simply a chance to breathe was exactly what the young star needed. "I definitely will take maybe 2 days off," she said after Toronto. "I need to get a haircut. I haven't gotten a haircut in a while. My nails are grown out now." Now she was back, and the fans were ready. The Cincinnati Open, a $7.4 million WTA 1000 tournament, marked a major milestone for the 21-year-old Filipina. For the first time in her career, Eala had earned a seeding at a WTA 1000 event. Number 17, the highest position she had ever carried into a tournament. That seeding also brought a first-round bye, something she had never experienced before. Not long ago, she was relying on wild cards or fighting through qualifying just to enter these events. Now, she was a genuine force, filling venues and drawing attention everywhere she played. And Ohio's Filipino community was absolutely ready for her. Cincinnati's Filipino population is estimated at roughly 1,000 to 2,000, while Ohio is home to nearly 17,000 Filipino Americans, and they were determined to pack the stands. The same wave that transformed Washington and Toronto into Little Manila was coming back again. Practice courts were surrounded by supporters waving Philippine flags. The stadium preparing to host Eala was already buzzing with anticipation. Across the internet, videos of her welcome were spreading fast. Eala was scheduled to face world number 77 Elena-Gabriela Ruse of Romania, and the matchup instantly grabbed attention. The Manila Times noted that Eala entered with a 0-1 record against Ruse after suffering a tough 3-set defeat during 2024 US Open qualifying. But honestly, the fans weren't thinking about statistics. They were there for their hero. Eala herself could barely hide how moved she was by the support. "It's an amazing experience. It's nice to see that the Filipino community is really showing up and enjoying tennis," she said, while also hoping that their passion could help grow the sport and give supporters something fresh and exciting to enjoy. Toronto had already been a success. Cincinnati was only getting started, and the tennis world was about to see what can happen when an entire community decides to rally behind one of its own. But before Eala could take down the $7.4 million Cincinnati Open, she still had one major challenge standing in her way. Elena-Gabriela Ruse, the Romanian veteran, standing directly between Eala and another huge Cincinnati breakthrough. She was a player who had beaten her before, someone who knew how to disrupt her rhythm, and someone who had just delivered a major upset by taking down a highly experienced opponent in the opening round. Eala knew exactly what kind of battle was waiting for her. The history between Eala and Elena-Gabriela Ruse made this matchup even more intriguing. Their last meeting came during the 2024 US Open qualifiers, where Ruse survived a grueling 3-set fight against the Filipina. But this time, the circumstances were completely different. This was a WTA 1000 tournament. The stakes were massive, the pressure was intense, and thousands of Filipino supporters were watching every move. "They can maybe relax a bit because they will see me on court very soon," Eala said with a smile, recognizing the incredible Filipino support that had essentially transformed Cincinnati into a home crowd. But behind that smile, she knew the challenge was serious. Ruse had earned her second-round spot through a gritty performance, and now she stood directly between Eala and a possible third-round clash against a top seed. What made Ruse dangerous wasn't just her ranking. It was her experience, toughness, and ability to frustrate opponents with relentless defense while stretching rallies longer than expected. Eala remembered their first encounter. Ruse had tested her physically, broken her rhythm, and forced her to battle for nearly every point. The Romanian veteran had spent years competing on the biggest stages of professional tennis, and she knew exactly how to make things difficult for an emerging star like Eala. But this wasn't the same Eala who stepped onto that qualifying court back in 2024. She arrived in Cincinnati with greater confidence, more experience, a career-high WTA 1000 seeding, and an entire Filipino community standing behind her. But this time, the momentum was clearly on her side. Eala had just captured her first WTA title in Washington, pushed her winning streak to 7 matches, defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final, and climbed to a career-high world number 20 ranking. And now she had a massive army of Filipino supporters ready to roar her toward another victory. That short Toronto reset, the haircut, time with friends, and simply getting away from tennis for a moment was exactly what she needed. "I definitely will take maybe 2 days off, a day or 2, Eala said after Toronto. "I need to get a haircut. I haven't gotten a haircut in a while. My nails are grown out. So yeah, I'll do a couple things just to get my mind off tennis." That brief reset allowed her to recharge both mentally and physically. Now she was back, locked in, and determined to remind everyone why the Eala effect was becoming impossible to stop. The stage was ready. The crowd was absolutely rocking, and Eala was prepared to put every question about handling WTA 1000 pressure to rest. The match started, and right from the opening point, it was obvious that Eala had arrived ready to fight. Elena-Gabriela Ruse, the experienced Romanian veteran, came out firing, held serve in the opening game, and immediately attacked Eala's backhand. The opening exchanges were tense, with both players carefully testing one another and searching for an opening. Eala knew she had already battled Ruse once, and understood that the Romanian could turn every rally into a physical, uncomfortable fight. But hold up. This was a different Eala. She stepped onto the court carrying the confidence of a WTA champion, a 7-match winning streak, and a career-high ranking of number 20. The pressure was enormous, but the belief surrounding her was just as powerful. And as the Filipino crowd grew louder with every single point, Eala began settling into her rhythm. With every game, it became more obvious that this was not the same Eala who had struggled against Ruse before. This was a confident, battle-tested competitor ready to grab her opportunity on one of the biggest stages of her career. This was a WTA 1000 event. The stakes were massive, the pressure was intense, and thousands of fans were watching every point. Eala finally found her rhythm in the 4th game. A crushing forehand down the line, followed by a perfectly placed backhand cross-court, suddenly forced Elena-Gabriela Ruse onto the defensive. The break arrived, and Eala's instant fist pump sent the Cincinnati crowd into another wild eruption. The momentum had officially changed. The opening set played out like a high-level baseline chess match. Both players battled through extended rallies, refusing to hand over cheap points. But Eala's efficiency slowly began separating her from Ruse. She landed 60.9% of her first serves and won an impressive 71.8% of those points, allowing her to stay calm during the longest exchanges. Then came the critical moment. Eala earned only her second break chance of the set and converted when it mattered most. She protected that lead and closed out the opening set 6-3, but Ruse wasn't ready to disappear. The Romanian veteran raised her level in the second set, serving with more authority and putting greater pressure on Eala's return games. The rallies shortened, the tempo exploded, and suddenly Eala was down 4-5, staring directly at the possibility of a deciding set. This was the moment that could determine everything. Instead of panicking or swinging recklessly, Eala trusted her biggest weapon: depth, patience, movement, and intelligent court positioning. Even with her first serve failing to land consistently, she stayed composed and won an incredible 76% of her second serve points, neutralizing Ruse's attacks and refusing to offer easy chances. With the crowd screaming behind her, Eala held serve and forced a tea break. Now, everything rested on just a few critical points. The pressure was enormous, but Eala had already proven she could handle it. The Cincinnati crowd suddenly fell quiet as both players prepared for the decisive battle. And then, the opening point of the tea break arrived. Then Eala completely took over. Her focus and composure were impossible to miss. She attacked Gabriela Ruse's second serve, controlled the rallies from the very first shot, and raced to a dominant 7- to finish. The final score read 6-3, 7-6-2. Eala finished the match in just 1 hour and 48 minutes, with barely any drama during the closing stretch. She had done it again. She had taken down a seasoned WTA veteran who had pushed her to the limit in their previous meeting. And she had accomplished it on one of the biggest stages in tennis. But listen to this. The victory became even more impressive because of what it proved. Eala showed that she could absorb the pressure, survive the most difficult moments, and deliver when everything was on the line. The 21-year-old Filipina had proven that the Eala effect wasn't simply about the crowd. It was about the player herself, and the crowd was only getting louder. The victory was already sweet, but what happened afterward was even better. As Eala walked away from the court at the Lindner Family Tennis Center, the roar from the stands was absolutely deafening. It was the same explosive energy that had echoed through Sophie Stadium in Toronto and filled the William H.G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center in Washington. That roar had become the soundtrack of Eala's unforgettable summer. The $7.4 million Cincinnati Open had once again turned into a massive celebration of Filipino pride, and the tennis world was watching in disbelief. The scenes immediately reminded everyone of what had unfolded in Toronto only days earlier. Philippine flags were draped across railings throughout the stands. Fans showed up wearing custom Eala shirts. Children held handmade signs saying "Fight, Believe, and Represent," while chants of "Let's go, Alex" echoed around the stadium. The atmosphere inside the Lindner Family Tennis Center was absolutely electric. And despite Cincinnati having a much smaller Filipino community than Toronto, the support was still unbelievable. Cincinnati's Filipino population is estimated at around 1,100 to 2,000, while Ohio as a whole is home to nearly 17,000 Filipino Americans. Yet supporters traveled to Mason just to cheer for their hero, transforming the tournament into something that felt far bigger than a tennis match. And even the players were starting to notice. Coco Gauff, the world number 4 and reigning US Open champion, had already recognized Eala's growing impact on the sport. "I like that Alex brings a whole new demographic to the WTA Tour," Gauff added. "I think what she's doing for the sport of tennis is great. She's a great role model for people to look up to." The message was becoming impossible to miss. Alex wasn't simply collecting wins anymore. She was carrying an entire community with her, and Cincinnati had become the newest chapter in an extraordinary rise. Jessica Pegula, the world number 3 who lost to Eala in the Washington final, delivered an even more direct message to the Filipino supporters who came out. "You guys are helping grow tennis around the world," she said after the match. "Being a female athlete, being in tennis, we love to see that growth, and that growth was impossible to deny in Cincinnati." The crowd simply wouldn't stop. Fans refused to leave. Even after Eala's victory, the stadium remained alive. Philippine flags stayed raised throughout the stands. The chants continued, and the community that had practically claimed the tournament was celebrating right alongside their star. During her post-match interview, Eala spoke directly to the supporters who had turned Cincinnati into a home away from home. "Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat," she said, before adding, "I see you guys every week. I see how much you love your fellow Filipinos."